Welcome to a very special MLG PC Circuit feature. This is JP McDaniel, and I'll be your host throughout the show. Joining me will be a very familiar name to fans of the PC Circuit, as well as competitive World of Warcraft, Keith Igof Trahan. For the show, we plan to have three basic segments: a PvE segment, a PvP segment, and everyone's favorite weekly arena match. The PvE segment will consist of raid strategies for new boss encounters, explanation of popular add-ons, and top PvE guild interviews. This week, we'll highlight the Blood Queen encounter, and Deuce Vox's Guildmaster Michael Nokaru Cohen and Rogue Hero David Onos Atz will join us. For the PvP segment, we'll have discussions with the top players of Arena, introductions to unknown stars and upcoming players, and talk about the latest topics and trends in the PvP scene. Joining us this week, we have Complexity Black's very own Mike Twix Shane and BG9's infamous hunter Brandon Jazzy Clark. Last but not least, we'll be featuring a 3v3 best of 7 series between two of the biggest teams in World of Warcraft. This week, we have the BlizzCon 2009 Global Champions TSG against the relentless gladiators of BG9 straight to the top. Alright, and let's start things off with the PvE segment. So joining me right now is, of course, David Onos Atz and Michael Nokaru Cohen of Deuce Vox, and also joining me is Keith Igof Trahan. What's going on, guys?
Yo, what's going on?
Hey, how's it
All
going?
right, it's going pretty good. So to start things off, let's talk a little bit about what makes Deuce Vox so competitive in the PvE scene.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is everyone's competitive. Everyone thinks they should be the best, and that's what makes DV what it is. Everyone's competitive, and everyone tries to do their best all the time, and we try to keep mistakes to a minimum, and if you mess up, we'll let you know about it.
So one of the highlights for Deuce Box, of course, was during War when a lot of people were striving for the same things, and actually your guild was the one to get world first on putting down Steelbreaker. So can you kind of talk a little bit about what was going on with Deuce Box as y'all were trying to power through that instance?
Well, I remember that week as being particularly slow because we couldn't even enter the instance for like 2 days. And so a lot of people think that we attempted Steelbreaker like to try to like grab some random kill on some boss, but the boss just happened to be up at the end of the week, and we decided to see if the hard one was doable. And after like 3 pulls or so, we definitely saw that the boss was killable, like on the Monday night. And so we tried it for a few hours, and then we killed it.
All right, so one of the things that we were talking about with you guys earlier was the Ice Crown Citadel attempt system. Michael, what are your guys' feelings about this new system implemented in the latest raid instance of World of Warcraft?
Well, I think the attempt system is definitely like something that was very good in theory, like to judge a guild based on how quick they can kill a boss, how few attempts they can do it is definitely it's a good way to judge a guild on skill, like in theory, but like in practice, especially with Ice Crown, the with how easy it is to get gear and how like the reality of what the attempt system has turned into is like I don't believe it's anything remotely close to what Blizzard even envisioned it to turn into. For example, I don't think there's any competitive guild out there that doesn't have at least one well-geared alt that they practice like the temp system with. And if the purpose of the attempt system was to like reduce the amount of time raiding, it's like it's doing the complete opposite for most people that are competitively raiding in PvE.
Yeah, I think one of the most disappointing things about it is just the fact that you have to have, I mean, basically, if you're a competitive guild and you understand how the attempt system works, especially with Ice Crown, and as easy as Ice Crown is with alts, you can just gear up an alt, and like you could, let's say you can have your 25 main raiders for Ice Crown Group 1. Well, those 25 raiders, I mean, if you're a competitive raiding guild, you're most likely going to have an alt, and as easy as it is to get gear, you just gear up and then you go do Ice Crown, and you can do attempts on Future Side, Blood Queen, and eventually Cindergosa and Lich. And if you don't want to burn your attempts on your main group, you can just do it on your alts. So it kind of negates the whole attempt system, but at the same time, it forces people to play another character and play even more, which, I mean, it's a little ridiculous.
all brings it to the whole carrot on a stick as an MMO, and it always keeps it out there. But it actually brings up our next point a little bit. Hard modes are going to be coming pretty soon for Ice Crown, and actually talking about it a little bit there. And do you guys think that almost every competitive guild out there will do the alt run first, just to see how things go?
If they can get there.
Well, I know like every guild for sure is. I mean, the 10-mans themselves, like they offer like a lot of insight into what the hard modes are gonna be like. Like I don't think there's gonna be a single guild out there that isn't gonna see what the hard modes offer, like at least on the 10-mans.
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things with the 25 man is just um, you probably, I mean, unless you have insanely good geared alts, I mean, you probably won't be able to get to the hard modes for like the Putricide and Blood Queen and stuff for the attempt thing. But as for 10 man, yeah, you can definitely go into 10 mans and check out the normal mode with the attempts, and then you can check out the hard mode with the attempts in the following week. I mean, you can pretty much, I mean, they'll give you, I think it's 20 attempts by the time Lich is out. I mean, you could easily get over 100 attempts with, I mean, in total of your guild with depending on how many alts you have. It's just absurd.
So, Michael, as for Deucebox as a guild, how are you going to approach these hard modes? Are y'all going to push for those world first again?
Oh, well, like of course, but I mean, I think the plan for like every guild is to like attempt it as soon as possible on 10-man most likely and see what the abilities are like. Part of the problem with the attempt system is like every attempt is very important because you need as many attempts on Lich King as you can, since like there's little to nothing known about him, especially for hard mode. So going in, it's like even like surviving for like 2 minutes on alts on like Putricide would like give you a lot of insight into how much damage the abilities do and the timing of most of the at least stage 1 and 2 on that fight.
Oh no, so I've got I guess kind of a tough question, but a very familiar one to both PvEers and PvPers out there. Obviously, the PvPers say that PvE is a joke. You've had guilds like PvE is hard out there. Everyone, it's always been a back and forth controversy between these two kind of different sides of the WoW world. As a big name PvPer and a big name PvEer, what do you think about this argument, and do you have a side on which you stand strongly for?
Um, I mean, PvP is definitely all about reaction time and knowing what to do before something actually happens. So I mean, there's that aspect of PvP where, I mean, it takes a lot of skill to be extremely good at PvP. PvE, I would definitely say is a little easier, but the thing is, it is extremely hard to keep a top guild going with top players all the time. You have to have connections, you have to be friends with everyone, you have to do loot properly, you have to keep everyone happy, and it's far easier to keep a team together of just 3 people and to be extremely competitive in PvP, depending on the comp, of course. Um, but as far as PvE goes, I mean, it's extremely hard as well. I mean, you can, depending on how much you want to raid, we raid probably 6 hours during progression, and trying to get everyone on time and everyone to be focused, and especially with these attempts, you gotta talk strategy to people during these attempts, and you gotta make sure they're listening. It's a lot to watch out for, and it's a lot to take care of. So I would definitely say PvE is probably a little more difficult to handle as an officer and a GM. But I think if you're just in a raiding guild, it's probably about the same thing. I mean, depending on how serious you want to take it. Like most PvPers say that PvE is easy just because they want to say it. But until you actually do it and say it's and you're in a top guild and you're putting in the work and hours to kill a boss, it is extremely difficult. It is not easy by any means. And I love both PvP and PvE. I don't have a side. I like them both, and PvP was a huge part of my life probably about 6 months ago. I mean, it still is a big part of my life, just not as big. I don't go to tournaments or anything anymore. But the PvE scene is definitely fun, and it takes a lot of responsibility to be good at it.
Now, it's always very easy out there to rank PvPers as far as teams go. Of course, on Armor, you're going to see who's on top of who. But PV, it's a whole different story. So, oh no's, for you and Deuce Fox, who do you rank as your top three competitors in the American PvE scene?
American? Well, I know Exodus had a downfall with TOC just like we did. Um, Primo, absolutely, they're up there. They're an extremely good guild. A bunch of the players are extremely smart. Um, I would have to say Primo for one. Um, Gosh, I don't know. I would have to say it's tough. I mean, I don't know of any other notable guilds really. I mean, it's been bouncing around like crazy. I would definitely say we're up there. We've been good for an extremely long time. I mean, like I said, the only downfall we really had was TOC. Um, and as far as other stable guilds, I don't know. I'd have to go with either Exodus, Vodka, Cuties only. I mean, anyone can take the spot. All the guilds are good.
All right, so at the beginning of that question, you kind of stuttered for a second and then said American, which of course we do have those European guilds who have been quite strong in the PvE department. What do you think is so much, or what is the main difference between the European raiding guilds and the American raiding guilds?
Um, well, I think Rat can probably explain it a little better than me. We actually had an app from Method a long time ago,
Sure.
and he pretty much explained how different it was. And when he explained it to us, it was a whole new perspective of how they take it. They take rating compared to we do. So you can take it, Rack.
Well, like during TBC, like one thing that like struck everyone as like pretty amazing was how quickly like Nihilum and Method and I'm trying to remember, it's like Inner Sanctum I think was the other top Euro guild and SK Gaming obviously. And these guilds would kill things extremely quickly, and the reason was like the skill level between all four guilds and American guilds I think was pretty close, but the main difference was that most people will not believe, but these guilds raid for upwards of 10, 13, sometimes 15 hours like a day. They're extremely dedicated to like PvE in World of Warcraft. Most people don't like find it hard. Most people find it hard to believe, but these European guilds for like TOC, for example, for every single attempt, they would have Warlock alts online, and they would make sure every single person in the raid had a soulstone or could resurrect somehow, and they got to Newbrack the first day with like 45, 44, 48 attempts remaining, and it was because they are extreme. Like I think most of them are way more dedicated than the American scene is. Like some people say PV is not hardcore, but if you just look at the videos of for example, Paragon's their second Newbrack kill, every single person in the raid is still soulstoned, and they executed a strategy that because and Blizzard had to they nerfed the strategy that Paragon had just previously used, and they executed a brand new strategy in just 4 attempts, and that is pretty impressive.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the fight, the Blood Queen fight, the latest fight released in the Ice Crown Citadel raid.
Alright, so Blood Queen Lanathel is the final boss of the Crimson Hall, and she has about 59 million health, which is probably more than most guilds are used to in a 25-man normal encounter. Now, the first thing you want to work out for Blood Queen is you want to set up the positioning so that the entire raid, at least the ranged DPS, are spread out at least 5 or 6 yards from each other, and keeping the center of the room fairly clear. At least there should be at least 20 yards of room like completely clear in the middle of the room. This is to minimize the raid damage that most of her abilities do during the fight. Now, the tanks in this fight have probably the simplest job, aside from actually worrying about her position and threat and such. You need 2 tanks because she has this ability called Blood Mirror, which will basically will do shadow damage to the closest person to the main tank. Now this could be anyone in the raid, so the offtank has to make sure that he is the closest person to the main tank, and so standing on top of the main tank is just his top priority. Now as far as the ranged DPS and healers are concerned, what they need to be worried about is Blood Queen is constantly doing a Shroud of Sorrow, which is just 4,500 shadow damage every couple seconds. It's like Twin Valkyr, this constant shadow damage going on throughout the fight. The second ability that everyone really needs to worry about, except the main tanks, like the main tanks don't need to worry about anything but Blood Mirror, is Pact of the Darkfallen. Now, the reason the center of the room is clear is because Pact of the Darkfallen will target 3 people in the raid, and they will start to do damage to everyone around them until those 3 people come together. That will make the debuff go away. So that is why it's really important that there is a spot that they can go to that there is no one at. The next ability she has is Swarming Shadows, which is similar to what most people should be familiar with from Lord Jiraxis. In about 1 second after getting this debuff, the player will start to have shadows appearing at his feet, and the easiest way to deal with this is just move. The outskirts of the room should be clear if you're positioned correctly. You should take care never to actually put the Swarming Shadows in the middle of the room, because this is a highly trafficked area because of the Pact of the Darkfallen, so you don't actually want people to take damage from both Pact and Swarming Shadows. There's another ability that there's not much you can do with except Spread Out, which is Twilight Bloodbolt. She'll randomly target someone in the raid and do a splash AoE on them. This thing actually can target melee. I don't know if that's intended, but even if there's enough targets at range, it still continues to target melee. Periodically, Blood Queen will, about 2 minutes into the fight and 4 minutes into the fight, she will run to the center of the room and cast Incite Terror, which will fear everyone in the raid, and then she flies and casts Bloodbolt Whirl, which is basically rapidly casting Bloodbolt on the raid. It is extremely easy to die when she's flying in the air if you're standing next to somebody, so spreading out is extremely important when she's in the air phase. There's one more aspect of the fight that I haven't covered at all. It's very important, and it's the vampirism that infects the raid throughout the fight. It's primarily something that DPS have to worry about and organize amongst themselves, or your raid leader can organize, but I'll let him explain it since he's DPS for my guild.
Alright, so basically, about 10 seconds into the fight from when you pull her, she'll bite someone in the raid. We're not exactly sure how the bite works. We think it's based off on some sort of threat or some sort of damage, or I don't even know. I mean, it's really confusing. But basically what happens is someone will get bitten. It was a random person, and you'll be doing 100% increased damage with no threat associated with it at all. So basically you can just go hardcore and you won't have to worry about pulling or anything. Um, After about a minute or so, you're gonna get something called Frenzied Bloodthirst. I think it's a 10-second duration, but basically you have to bite someone. A pet bar will show up, and you'll have to bite somebody. And what we do is we prioritize DPS over healing because it's a DPS race fight. So basically what we do, if a melee gets bit, we'll go out and bite a range DPS. That way, it's easiest for range to bite range and for melee to bite melee. So once you get 2 bites out for melee and range, it's extremely easy to pass along the biting. So for me, for example, is I'm a rogue. If I get bitten first from Blood Queen, as soon as the fight starts, I'm gonna go out and bite one of our range DPS. And after I do that, 60 seconds later, I'm going to bite all the melee, basically. I'm going to go around and bite all the melee. And the range DPS, whoever I bit, is going to start biting all the range DPS. There are some little tricky things with the fight when it comes to biting somebody. Being a human is extremely good for this fight, or being undead is extremely good for this fight, because when she goes into the air, and she's about to fear everyone, sometimes you'll get the frenzied bloodthirst debuff where you have to bite somebody, otherwise you're going to get mind controlled. Basically, you have to trinket the fear, or you have to fear ward that person, or you have to basically be really quick on your toes as to who you're going to be biting. Otherwise, you're going to get feared, and you're you're going to get out of position and you're not going to be able to bite anyone within that 10-second duration, and you can get mind controlled. And basically, if you get mind controlled, it's not necessarily a wipe, but you lose that bite damage gain. You lose an extra person in your raid, which obviously hurts, and when they get mind controlled, they do some serious damage and they have some serious health. And the only people who can really kill the mind controlled people are the people who have already been bitten. So that's pretty much how the fight goes for as far as biting goes. Range DPS and melee, they're both probably equally as difficult. Um, the main thing to watch out for on that fight is swarming shadows as a DPS. I mean, if you are sitting there and you're gonna see and you see yourself getting swarming shadows, and you need to bite somebody, like you need to be really cautious, like as to who you're gonna be biting. You need to plan ahead. There's a lot of little tricky things that I'll get into later with how the fight actually works, or with little tricks here and there that'll help you prevent yourself from getting mind controlled. So.
All right, guys, before we wrap up our PvE segment here, one last thing I want to talk about is some of the pro tips that you guys do in your guild for both 25-man Blood Queen and 10-man Blood Queen. So, David, what are some of the best suggestions and some of the tips that you've kind of learned doing this fight over the time?
Well, I play a warlock and a rogue. I played a warlock and a rogue DPS on both these fights, and there's a little trick that you can do is you can bite a shadow priest. He'll do more vamp healing if you bite him first. As far as some tricks that I do as a rogue is I I look for the cool. Well, we use a boss mod called Deuce Fox boss mods, and basically Collective has the mod where it'll track when Swarming Shadows is going to be coming or when Pact of the Darkfallen is going to be coming. And what I do as a rogue is if I know Swarming Shadows is coming, like I'll be really careful with my global, and I'll make sure as soon as I see Swarming Shadows go out on somebody, let's say that somebody is me, I'll just hit cloak instantly because I'll be off global. I'm really cautious about that because that Swarming Shadows ticks really fast, and if you leave it in melee or if you leave it on anyone but yourself, it's not good for your raid at all, and it puts extra pressure on the healers, and it's just not good to do. Um, like if you're in the middle of a heal or if you're in the middle of a casting a shadow bolt or something, and you get swarming shadows, don't even finish that cast. You need to move ASAP, and that goes for Pact of the Darkfallen as well. As soon as you get those debuffs, you gotta be really quick on your toes. Um, and I think Rack's gonna explain what tanks and what healers should do for the most part as far as little tricks go. So.
Well, one thing to note is if you're actually wiping at a low percentage on this boss, I mean, you could just, if you're struggling with the DPS on this boss, you can just try 5 healing. It's a little bit more pressure at the start, but one thing to keep in mind is the vampirism makes the DPS heal for 10% of the damage they do, and they're doing double the damage. So most of the time they're just out healing all the AoE that's going on around them just from their attacks. So 5 healing isn't that difficult to do. The air phase is probably the time where most people actually die on this fight. So if you have a few Shadow Priests in the raid or Holy Priests or Discipline Priests, you should work out coordinating like divine hymns in each different phase. And the other thing you can do to minimize the damage is use Divine Sacrifice from your Paladins. It'll reduce the raid damage by 20%, and it makes a world of difference by actually using these cooldowns during the second phase. Using Tranquility and Pain Suppression, all this on anyone that you think is kind of squishy during the Twilight Blood Bolts.
Alright guys, well that's going to do it for our PvE segment this time. I want to thank both Michael and David for coming on and putting up with me and Keith's questions and also giving us some tips and explaining the Blood Queen fight. David, is there anything you want to do? Possibly do some shoutouts to your guild's website and any other information you want known. Here's your moment.
Uh, yeah. Deuce Fox is a great guild, best guild I've ever been in. Out of all the top guilds I've been in, ever since I joined DV, it's been great. On a little side note, I think we've only had about 2 people quit our guild for other guilds, and those 2 people have came back to me and personally said that they regret coming back, or they regret going to the other guild and they want to come back. That's one thing. That just goes to show you how great DV is. We're a very relaxed guild. We like to have a lot of fun. We love to PvP. Um, we also have a lot of members who will put in the effort to be a top rating guild. We have Collective who makes a terrific boss mod for us. It's called Deucefox's Boss Mod, and basically you can go to our website at deucefox.net and download it for free. It's the best mod I've ever worked with when it comes to PvE. It has all sorts of timers, arrows, sounds that you can work with and edit in, and it's got timers for Shadow Strike timers, and just it's great. Um, and I want to thank my guild. I mean, I wouldn't be here if my guild wasn't helping me. So I love a lot of the people in the guild. It's awesome being here. Um, all the PvPers I play with, Shin and Collective, you guys are awesome. And yeah, I want to thank Rack too. Rack basically helped me with DV a lot. He promoted me to officer in Sunwell days, and ever since I became an officer, it's been a lot of fun, man. So I appreciate it.
All right, and that'll do it for our PvE segment. Next up is our PvP segment, and we will be joined by Twix and Jazzy.